Let's see what indie game wasted $17 million. This better be good.
$1.5 million with none of that money coming from Kickstarter. Have you ever heard of the indie game Starlight Revolver? If you don't recognize that name,
Never.
that's fine. There are a lot of indie games out there. But what if I told you this indie game had a budget of $17.5 million with none of that money coming from Kickstarter? This indie game had over 100,000 wishlists, broke into the top 10 most played demos of Steam Next Fest 2025, and had big streamers like CDawgVA and Iron Mouse both lined up to play at Anime NYC. Their team had employees from Riot Games, Capcom, Ubisoft, and their music had people working on it as
I've never heard of this game until this video. And the thing is, this doesn't mean a lot when I get developers are shit and don't know what they are doing.
big as Caro Caro Bonito, Iris, and Lily Pichu. All of this put towards an early access release player peak of only 499 players.
That's worse than Concord. But at least the game wasn't as expensive as Concord. But this is player numbers worse than Concord. This is actually bad.
A peak they would never come close to beating for the rest of the lifetime of the game. And even worse, this wasn't a single player game releasing to low player accounts. This was a game intended to be MMO-like with live service.
What? Why would you... Okay, I now can see why it failed. An MMO, yeah. MMO, of course. It's again one of these studios. Complete new studio. First game, an MMO. Yeah, of course it would fail. Of course it would. Why would anyone expect anything else? This never worked out as a first-time game for any studio ever. At least I've never heard of one.
The reception was so bad that they had to announce the shutdown of the game only 3 months later, and leading up to that, they were dealing with suspicions of implementing.
At least they shut down. They survived longer than the studio of Concord.
Crypto, AI, and pulling strings to get their funding in the first place. So how do you start with $17.5 million, a killer team, tons of big collaborations, but shut down in 3 months? Let's find out. First, I want to get ahead of the people thinking that I'm the one defining them as an indie studio. They actually say this about themselves in their Gamescom exhibition description. They say they are a New York-based indie team of game developers. And since they mentioned Starlight Revolver, this was their description after they started developing that game, which will mean more in a little bit. Before the game was released, the CEO, Daniel Zhou, made a Reddit post in game dev about what he learned after first.
Wait, I started learning game dev 3 years ago. And yesterday we reviewed our game on IGN. My reflections on starting from scratch to 100k. Oh. He started to learn how to be a game dev 3 years ago. I can totally see now why this game flopped. Totally. You don't make an MMO on. I started doing some learning how to be a game dev 3 years ago. That's not what you do. Yeah, this is, wow, this is dumb. Why would you think you could do something? The hubris.
Revealing his game to the world. This was a post broadly talking about the funding, how they took feedback, and how they pivoted ideas. But what the commenters immediately caught onto was in the line about the funding. I went off savings for the first year, then raised $2 million in year 2 and $15 million in year 3 from venture capital. Daniel's post was very quickly overshadowed.
Oh. Why would anyone give them 15 million? I mean, I guess when with multiple investors, but still, why would they do? Why even? Because the investors don't know what they're doing. Got to have ambition to make it big, but hard work to make it last. Ambition is not the problem. MMORPGs are the worst genre to make games in general. And if you're a new studio, is that making that's your first game? You have no idea what you are doing. That's the thing. These people have no idea what they are doing. They look at the success of fucking World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV and go, yeah, he totally beat that. And then they make one game, which is the MMO, and that completely fails because they have no idea what they are doing. This is ridiculous.
By the fact that they raised $2 million just a year after starting game development. Not only just starting game development, but from the title, Daniel says he started learning game development 3 years ago. This pace is absolutely unprecedented in the indie game scene, where people often develop games from a capital investment of $0, all the money coming out of their own savings until the game releases. Starlight Revolver somehow got $2 million only a year after the CEO started learning about game development, and $15 million.
Wait, he's the CEO? Oh. This looks like a scam to me. It absolutely looks like a scam to me. Forward is an exception. Too bad they didn't have the funds for servers to support the massive popularity. Forward was primarily a single-player game that had co-op. But you don't need massive servers for that. You just release a game and have the people play with their friends. That can be peer-to-peer. You don't need actual servers for that.
More a year after that. From his comments, this screenshot is from the build that he used to get that first round of funding. It's a very...
It looks okay. It looks okay. It doesn't look good, but it looks okay.
simple looking demo, nothing that would make someone think that it should get $2 million. So people dug deeper, and they found that this wasn't the story of just Starlight Revolver, but also another game called Halcyon Zero. The developer mentions that Halcyon Zero was the first version of Starlight Revolver after they were called out.
Oh. So did they get money for a different game, but then made the very, very, very colorful game instead? I can see that, yes.
About their incredible level of funding, and if you go looking, you can see the types of people who invested into it. The primary investor is Jonathan Lai, a partner of Andreessen Horowitz, a venture capital firm that invests into many things, including AI and crypto. People even found the post from Andreessen Horowitz specifically about Halcyon Zero. In this post, you can find why they cared about Pado Labs, the company that Daniel Zhou founded. Andreessen Horowitz is leading the Series A in Pado Labs, a game studio building a next-generation anime RPG, Halcyon Zero, alongside a UGC platform for players to create their own anime-style mods and worlds. We're very...
I think that's way too ambitious for a first-time project. Way too ambitious. That's way too big of a scope. Way, way too big.
Excited about the potential for AI-assisted UGC to transform IP into dynamic, never-ending game franchises. This was how Halcyon Zero...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're using AI for this, even though it has never been done before. And if anyone has ever tried anything with AI to create something game-like, it always was shit. Yay.
Pato Labs, and Daniel Zhou got their funding. While this post was talking about the larger chunk of $15 million that the company raised, it's not too far of a stretch to imagine that this was the pitch that also got the initial $2 million. And that's because to get $2 million, you would have had to have sold investors on the idea that they would eventually get their money back and more. An MMO, especially from an indie company with only 1 year of game development experience at the time, would have no other chance of getting that funding. MMOs are notoriously risky, even for big companies, as shown by a titan like Amazon.
Yes, remember, Amazon tried, I think at this point, several MMOs, and they all failed or never even came into the public. That's how risky this shit is. That's how hard it is to make them. And a dude that just started with game development, making an MMO, yeah, that's retarded. It's totally retarded.
Shutting down theirs. To get $2 million, Daniel Zhou was not just staunchly defending a few strong ideas or pivoting during game development, like he implies in the post. He was selling the idea that his company would create Anime Roblox, a platform to create AI-assisted user-generated content. Now, if you compare the 17...
Which is not a problem, but you have to have the knowledge on how to do that. That's the thing. Yeah, I can totally see why this flopped. I can totally see that. They overestimated their own abilities. Others overestimated their abilities. They got a lot of money. And then they got a lot of press from big streamers. Yeah, I can totally see why they overestimated that shit. And then they couldn't deliver because they didn't know what they were doing. Oh, right. That's probably what this is gonna boil down to.
$15.5 million they raised to the net worth of Roblox, you can see why companies were willing to put in what seems like a pittance for the chance.
By the way, Roblox is losing money every year. Roblox has never been profitable so far.
That this becomes even a fraction as big. People also found that to get these connections in the first place, Daniel Zhou had a job history at Jump Trading LLC, building their cryptocurrency trading product, Robinhood, specifically working on crypto among other things, and as an angel investor into many different ventures, including Neo, who in turn invested back into Pato Labs. All of this went directly against the idea of the post, which seemed to position themselves as a small indie company that pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, when in reality, Daniel Zhou had many connections to venture capital that other developers wouldn't have. Later in 2025, Daniel Zhou would post...
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. But to me, this kind of looks like money laundering or a scam. Or both. I'm absolutely not sure what's going on here.
Again in game dev, with the same style of post, this time calling themselves the solo dev that raised $2 million. They talk about how they spent weeks of competitive research and iteration on their animatic and advertising on TikTok by stepping out of their comfort zone. And at the bottom, there's a vague paragraph recommending devs not get discouraged by the negativity around the funding side, and how, if you build a truly impressive prototype relative to your resources, I believe there are investors and publishers out there that will be interested in your project. I would like to remind you that this screenshot was their prototype they said they had around the time we had raised the $2 million.
Which doesn't look incredible. It looks okay.
And that their largest investor, Andreessen Horowitz, explicitly calls out AI-assisted anime UGC as a reason they invested in Pato Labs, something completely absent in their entire post that was supposedly more about our story. The reaction in the comments correctly pointed out the reality, and that was that Daniel Zhou was lying by omission about how they got the investor attention and what they promised to those investors. It wasn't just a game, they were promising Anime Roblox. And all this might bring you to ask,
yeah, that might have been a mistake. Maybe, you know, maybe it's a mistake to say, oh yeah, we're gonna be as big as Roblox, or we wanna be like this but anime. You have no idea what he's talking about. Well, it's complicated. To be fair, it's complicated.
Why does this matter? Because while true, Daniel lied about how the company grew, but the game really did get 100,000 wishlists, and also got all those employees from other big companies. I gave you all that context because both of these posts were meant to advertise the game, as shown by the links to the game in both of them. And instead of doing that successfully, it made people uncover a lot of stuff that would drag down the game's reputation forever. Connections to AI and crypto through the CEO would fuel rumors of the company's plans for the game.
Yeah, I think I've never heard of a gaming company that has ties to crypto that there wasn't anything fishy going on. You know, there's always something fishy going on when cryptocurrency and games come together. Always. I think that I can't remember any example where there wasn't any fishy shit going on. Literally, all the time.
In fact, it was so persistent that the CEO had to make their own post on the Steam community, rebutting each and every one of those points. This was in response not only to the Reddit threads where people investigated, but also this enormous Steam discussion compiling all of this information for people to read. This discussion got 99 awards and generated 139 comments of responses before the moderators locked the thread from any further participation. If you googled Starlight Revolver Steam in the month after that thread was created in June 2025, your first result is that thread absolutely trashing the game. If you googled it in the days until just before the game was released in August 27th, just below the game itself, you would get that thread. For almost 2 months after the discussion was first created, people were going onto Google and immediately finding a thread that had only negative things to reveal about the game. Even though the CEO would later rebut the idea that the game has crypto or AI or anything like that, it took 2 months before that response would be made, and this was 2 days after the game had already been released. On top
Wait, what? Oh, that's dumb. That's so dumb. He shot himself in the foot. Oh, that's so dumb. Why don't you immediately respond? Why don't you do the smart thing?
of that, the post was to a much smaller audience, as evidenced by the number of awards and comments, only 35 and 17 respectively, and also, as a lesser point, the 99 awards the original discussion got were primarily made up of positive awards, not the clown award that was generally used to make fun of threads. This points towards that thread having a positive reception and people seeing it as truthful, accurate, or helpful. The reputation that Starlight Revolver had accumulated around itself is what
This game is being developed in an echo chamber. Oh my god. So just like Concord and Highguard and Marathon, at least somewhat. And the new Horizon game. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. And the devs are actively ignoring the specific thread, as they have seemingly instructed the moderators, telling users in their Discord to avoid this thread specifically. Oh, that's bad. You know what? Let's go here. How was it called? Oh, I forgot how it's called. Jesus, great. I'm genius. How was this game called? Starlight Revolver. It has 0 players right now, and the peak in the last 24 hours was 5. 499 was peak in the last 6 months. Okay, yeah. Guys, I think the game's dead. I think it's very dead. Very, very dead. It indeed is very dead, yes. Check War Thunder. I don't need to check War Thunder. It's probably something 200,000, at least 100,000 people playing right now.
people seeing it as truthful, accurate, or helpful. The reputation that Starlight Revolver had accumulated around itself is what I believe to be the reason it launched to only 499 players despite its wishlist count, and being a top 10 most played demo in Steam Next Fest 2025. If you look through every single game that has been released and placed near Starlight Revolver in Steam Next Fest, you can easily find that every single one of them beats out Starlight Revolver across many other genres that do not demand as strong of a player base as an MMO. There is no other reasonable explanation that I can conjure that would explain an at best 0.5% conversion rate of wishlists to peak player count in an MMO. Even though the game had a bad launch gameplay wise as well, which I will discuss soon, 100,000 wishlists and a top 10 most played demo in that month should have led more players to playing on launch purely on hype.
Yes, on hype alone, it should have been more people. I agree absolutely here. It should have been more people.
Alone. But I believe that this reputation of being possibly a crypto game, or a game made with AI assets, all from the rumors based on the past history of the CEO, was what turned people off before the game even launched. However, I do not want to give the impression that the reputation alone was what sank the game. For 499 players who did get into the game on launch, the scene was not pretty. If you know what this music is, you know what is coming. If you don't, just enjoy the ride. Connection errors. Unable to dash across a gap. All the roguelike currency going away. Can't join queue. Negative roguelike currency. Out of bounds. Out of bounds. Out of bounds. Becoming the void. Connection lost. By the way, there was no bug reporting channel in the Discord on launch.
Of course there isn't. Why would you be able to report bugs for a game?
And the bug reporting in-game was bugged. Connection.
The bug report thing in the game is bugged. Oh, this is hilarious.
Dropped and turned into nothing. Stuck at character select. No way to change keybinds. Unbeatable tutorial. Stuck on the title screen. And just for good luck, one more connection failure for an MMO with 499 players on their server.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. That's dumb. That's really bad. It's bad chat. This game is bad.
Yeah, this is how they ended up using their $17.5 million budget. As you can see in their October Steam post, they were already planning to turn the game into a single-player experience.
Why wasn't this a single-player game to begin with?
Alongside rebranding the game as Starlight Revolver Ignite. But in November, they announced the imminent shutdown of the game, with the single-player experience ending up as their plan for the shutdown. And that's how the game is today, an MMO turned into a solo offline experience. I don't know if there's any grand lesson to be learned here. Maybe don't lie about how your game got started, then go silent for 2 months while negative theories fester in your community. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. This game really did look beautiful. I'm sure the creatives put in their all to make the game look as good as it does, but
I don't think this looks very good. I don't think so. It's whatever. This doesn't pique any interest of me. Oh, and look at this. You can't create a real character because look at this. They all look the same. I guess these are different classes. And there are two different classes in this group. Great. That's why the characters look all the same. Awesome.
in the end, it was all dragged down by a CEO trying to drum up more attention for the game, instead of spending the money to make it a more fun experience. At least it wasn't money from the fans through Kickstarter this time. That's a relief.
I wonder what happened. I really wonder what the fuck happened. I would be surprised if they took the money and ran. They just ran. That's most likely what happened here. I absolutely believe that, yeah. They took the money and ran. They just ran.